Charlotte Griffiths, it's astonishing to me that Meghan Markle used the court case loss for Prince Harry to send out another email for was never. That's what Lady Colin Campbell calls her failing lifestyle brand. And I just was like, are you serious? Like, there's nothing sweet about this season for your family. And there does seem to be quite a dramatic unraveling of this business. I mean, Nancy Sidley posted, I think we can officially call it, as ever, the time of death, July the 4th, 2026. And what she did, you see, was compare what was quite a sort of plush Independence Day type launch in 2025 compared to this sort of pitiful looking piece of sourdough in 2026. I don't know about you, Charlotte. I don't even want to eat that. Like, seriously. And so this business seems to be in a great deal of trouble. Do you think that is why she has been at least open to the idea of some type of reconciliation with the British royal family? Don't miss a single update on the stories that actually matter. I'm breaking down the news every day, so make sure you subscribe to never miss a beat. Click that subscribe button right now.
Oh, I think so. I think she's well aware that the currency remains in some sort of association with the British royal family, with Diana. I do think she's coming to Althorpe during this trip. And I have to say, I'm pretty skeptical about the reasons why. Of course, she wants to remember Harry's mother, but if she can't get to the royal family, it feels like she wants to get at least to the Spencers and Diana's sisters and, be seen maybe going in and out of Althorpe or be able to report that she has done. Because that's the closest she can get to any kind of currency. And, she spent her currency over in the States. And we all know that she's got this warehouse full of jam that's about to go off. And I think she must have pre-scheduled all these emails. I get them. I got my one yesterday. I couldn't believe I was reading about jam yesterday when Harry was in such a pickle. Maybe we'll get a pickle email next time. But no, I absolutely agree with you there, Dan. That's clearly what's going on.
Yeah, because do you remember, Charlotte, she told Omid Scobie, that little propagandist, during the last official engagement at Buckingham Palace, that she would not return to England. Now, of course, she did so for the late Queen Elizabeth's funeral, but I guess in many ways that was unavoidable. My belief is that she had no plans to return, but something changed. And Charlotte, you were at the forefront of this very controversial meeting between my former boss, at least. I don't know if he was ever your boss, Charlotte, Tobin Andre, who is now the Director of Communications for King Charles, and Meghan's then team, although one of them is still with her. And Charlotte, you did cop a lot of criticism over that period because people were confused. Like, Harry is suing you. He is dragging your ass to court, Charlotte. He wants to destroy you. He wants you out of the Mail. And a lot of people were saying, including on this show, why are you giving him the airtime? Like, what, like, why are you quoting his friends and almost trying to lay the groundwork for him to return? Do you cop that criticism, or are you like, nope, it was a story and a story is a story and I was always going to break it?
I'm afraid it's the second one. You must be able to imagine, Dan, when a story like that drops in your lap, what are you going to do? Not run the story? We're a tabloid newspaper. I was nominated for Scoop of the Year for that story. A story is a story. And yes, I did dabble in Project Thor for a while. And then I passed the baton on to all the rest of Fleet Street because I realised it was the briefings and counter briefings. It all got very messy. But I was.
But you think it's on? You think it is happening? There is some type of establishment push to find a way for Prince Harry to return, not necessarily full time, but in some type of role. I mean, we've even seen Boris Johnson pushing for it in the pages of the Daily Mail.
For a time last summer, I did think Project Thor is on. And then I was sort of proved right because he did turn up at Clarence's house. And then I've begun to think it's not going to happen, especially after the Buckingham Palace debacle. And now he's come out and been incredibly rude about Justice Nicklin. Well, how can he ever be a working member of the royal family or go to a royal event now? There's the King's Court he's talking about there. So I think if Project Thor was on, and maybe it was on for a very brief moment in time, and it probably shouldn't have been, but I was just reporting that there was something going on, rumbling underneath the surface. I think it's
so why but Charlotte, a lot of your reporting over that time, because we covered it in detail, was coming from Harry's friends, especially his smaller group. Let's be honest, a lot of them have walked away, but especially his smaller group of friends in the United Kingdom. Why do you think they were speaking to you? Because that's what was so interesting to me. Like, Harry's getting you in court, but then his friends are briefing you this information. Like, was he trying to play some type of game? Do you think Harry was aware that his friends were giving you these stories? The stories about Harry and Meghan, the establishment and the media are working overtime to suppress. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken. Subscribe right now for free if you want the truth straight.
I don't think it was as well thought through as that, quite honestly. Nothing ever is with Harry, but I suppose as you know, I've got great Harry sources, always have done, going back as far as 2011. Yeah. So, naturally information like that is quite likely to come to me. And it did in the first instance. And, I was proved right when it turns out he did have that meeting on that balcony. Why did he choose me given that we were going to court? I just don't think it had been thought through. Anyway, who was I to argue? I had a story, and that's what mattered.
What do you think the state of the marriage with Meghan Markle is?
I do wonder, since she didn't turn up at Chatham House with him yesterday, how good it can possibly be. If I was him, I'd be pretty angry with her for abandoning me in my time of need. I wouldn't expect that of my husband. I can't believe Meghan did that to him, really. So yeah, I have to wonder. I think when we'll find out is at the Invictus Games event later in the week, whether they're holding hands and doing their usual routine of kind of being arm in arm at every moment. I think, in honesty, it peaks and troughs. I suppose like a lot of marriages, but in theirs, the peaks must be very high and the lows must be very low.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm sure they have stand-up rows. That's what I've heard over the years. But some of those relationships, they kind of thrive on that kind of argumentative, jeopardy. Is it over? Is it not over?
Yeah. There's like a toxicity.
I'm afraid that's what I think Harry's stuck in, a sort of toxic mess with Meghan.
A stunning disclosure from the absolute top tier of Fleet Street has just shattered the polished Montecito illusion. Appearing live on Dan Wootton's Outspoken, Daily Mail royal editor Charlotte Griffiths has exposed what insiders are calling a highly volatile, toxic mess behind closed doors. The grand narrative of an unbreakable union has collapsed into reports of screaming, stand-up rows, and deep relationship jeopardy. But the crisis runs even deeper. As Meghan Markle faces a dramatic high-stakes unraveling of her commercial empire, she has reportedly left Prince Harry isolated during his absolute hour of legal need, abandoning him to face a crushing high court defeat alone while she strategically positions her assets in Europe. The carefully curated PR strategy surrounding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex has officially hit a wall of brutal reality. While their media team scrambles to project an image of global influence, the actual reporting coming out of London tells a completely different story. But the true crisis isn't just the shouting matches, it's the calculated orchestration of what royal insiders are calling a profound emotional abandonment. As Prince Harry faced one of the most stressful weeks of his life, fighting his high-stakes legal battles in the London High Court, the Duchess was conspicuously absent. Rather than standing by her husband in his darkest hour of institutional isolation, Meghan chose to remain thousands of miles away in Portugal with the children. As Charlotte Griffiths sharply points out, when the going gets tough, the unified front vanishes. The timing of this geographic separation is highly transparent, signaling to the world that when Harry is suffering public reputational damage, the Montecito PR machine would rather protect the brand than project spousal solidarity. But the localized tension inside their marriage is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's break down the strategic layout of the absolute commercial failure currently plaguing Meghan's lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard. Dan Wootton highlighted what can only be described as a dramatic, slow-motion unraveling. The brand's currency in the United States has officially hit rock bottom, exhausted by years of repetitive victimhood narratives. Because their independent commercial projects are failing to gain traction, the Sussexes are being forced into a massive tactical retreat. They are desperately trying to re-establish a connection to British royalty, but because the House of Windsor has completely shut them out, they are turning their sights on the Spencer family. By clinging to the legacy of Princess Diana, they are attempting to borrow historical prestige to salvage their dying Hollywood deals.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And Charlotte, of course, you do also have supreme contacts in other parts of the royal family, especially amongst the young royals, William and Catherine, and particularly the princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. How is the rest of the family feeling at this point? Do you agree that William and Catherine in particular just view this now as a sideshow and wish that King Charles would be a little bit tougher and put it to an end?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I have heard of tensions. A lot of people deny this, but I've heard of tensions between Charles and William.
Oh,
And I'm
big
sure
time.
I'm
Big time.
yeah, big time. But then some people come out and say Charlotte Griffiths is absolutely wrong. But I just hear it time and time again from excellent sources, and not just the young, but actually older members of the royal circle, concerned kind of elders, as it were, have said that there's tensions between them. And, it makes me very sad because I'm sure the tension must be William wanting to cut off certain members of the family and move on because he's got to inherit this family and this firm. And so does his son George. And he may well be feeling extremely protective of George. He's about to start Eton. When he leaves Eton, he'll start being a proper working royal, and then he'll one day inherit the throne. And the last thing you want is this Harry and Meghan sideshow, not to mention Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew. And I'm sure that must be a source of great frustration between him and Charles. And how sad, really, that Harry has come between these two great men, the former Prince of Wales and the current Prince of Wales. They should be going through an amazing sort of handover process now, kind of, father and son teaching each other. But that's not the case, I don't think. And I think it's because of these wayward members of the family.
And what about Beatrice and Eugenie? Because for a long time, and I mean, you have really been at the forefront of reporting on how difficult life has been for these two women over the past decade. Now, we may differ as to whether there should be much sympathy towards the two of them. I mean, I think I'm probably in the more of the harsh camp, given that they did agree to meet Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted child sex offender, after his release from jail when they were actually young women, but not like, we're not talking teenagers, or at least, they were in their early 20s, I think. And, so I guess I'm more in the Prince William camp, which is that, unfortunately, they have to pay a little bit for not just the behavior of the parents, but the fact that they got wrapped up in it. But of course, there has been this interesting dynamic in terms of Eugenie in particular seeming to side with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and that causing tension with Prince William, who again doesn't think that Eugenie and Beatrice should have such a prominent role, in comparison with King Charles and Princess Anne, who are very much on the forgiveness train. And we saw that, didn't we, at Peter Phillips's wedding, where they did show up and William did have to give that kiss to Beatrice. So where do you think the two sisters stand at the moment? Are they, especially Eugenie, still very much team Harry and Meghan?
I don't think Beatrice is. It's so complicated, isn't it? Because Beatrice is friends with Piers Morgan and is desperate to be on Team Royal, and is the one out of the two of them that's always wanted to be a working royal more than Eugenie. But yet, I think Beatrice cops a little bit more of the flack for the Epstein Association because she is that little bit older, but also she accepted the necklaces, the 18th birthday parties. She was the one that walked her father into Newsnight, told him how marvellous he was. So I think that's a really tricky one. And I was really surprised, actually, that William gave her that kiss outside the royal wedding. And then with Princess Eugenie, well, I'm hearing, I don't know about you, that Meghan is currently in Portugal with the kids while Harry's in London on his own. And I find that very interesting because it must mean that they're somewhere near Princess Eugenie's husband's business. He runs this kind of villa company over there. And the rumour has always been on Fleet Street that the house that Meghan and Harry reportedly own in Portugal was somehow arranged by Jack Brooksbank. And I do also, when Eugenie found out she was pregnant, and then the king later found out, and Eugenie got a letter from the king. Apparently Eugenie was really surprised about that because I'm guessing she's thinking, well, I'm sort of on Team Sussex, so I'm amazed that I heard from the king and that I'm being welcomed by the royal family. Then at Christmas, I very much noticed this kind of Prince William scarfing moment when he appeared to ignore her, and she kept looking back towards him, and he kept looking down at his scarf, it was his scarf or his tie. So I do think there's a bit of a coldness there, and I do think maybe Eugenie is on Team Sussex.
And some of your reporting, Charlotte, especially about Beatrice at the moment, even though, as I say, I've been a little bit tough at times, it has made me really sad. Like, you've reported in quite a lot of detail about her marriage and how things are, shall we say, stressed. I mean, Edo even, well, fascinated to know how it happened, but he provided you with a statement almost trying to defend his behavior and the fact that he spent all of this time overseas. But Beatrice has really been struggling, and all of her friends are saying that. And it's probably not a surprise because she obviously has to question, well, am I going to cut off my own children from seeing their grandfather because she got in so much trouble when she was pictured with her child horse riding with Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. But talk to me about that marriage and what's really going on and how you got that explosive statement from Edo, Beatrice's husband, shall we say, pushing back at some of your reporting.
Well, I feel really sorry for Beatrice because Edo, again, in her time of need in January, mid-Epstein drama, he went off to America, I think for 2 or 3 weeks in total, posted loads of pictures, completely oblivious to the fact that, of course, the world would be looking at these pictures of him having a carefree time. He was having a glass of rosé with his colleague. He was taking lovely strolls around in Florida. And all the while, Beatrice was right in the absolute thick of it with the Epstein drama in January. So I feel really sorry for her, but it still had to be pointed out, what is going on? Why did Edo do this? And Edo said that, he said pretty much he's got to be the leader of his family now. There won't be any other money coming in. He almost acknowledged, really, reading between the lines, that the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor drama meant that he was going to have to bring home the bacon from now on. And so he was concentrating on his business. But I do hear these persistent rumours that Beatrice finds Edo a little bit difficult to manage sometimes. A lot of their friends say things like, oh, he's Italian. And it was so interesting how many different sources I had that weren't necessarily linked to one another, that all said, oh, Edo, he's Italian. So I don't know really what's going on there, but it feels to me like he's being very headstrong and going off a little bit and doing his own thing. And of course, I think Beatrice really wants to make that marriage work. And they went to Saint-Tropez together to a party with Piers Morgan last month. I thought it was very interesting that there was one day that Edo went out and Beatrice didn't go out during that Saint-Tropez trip. I found it fascinating they even went to Saint-Tropez because, of course, there's a lot of attention on the Yorks and how flashy they are. And I would have thought, from a PR perspective, an optics perspective, it was a really bad time to go to Saint-Tropez because it's the flashiest place. And they went to the flashiest restaurant, Cinq on Cinq. But I think Beatrice is working very hard to keep that marriage together. I think Edo's possibly quite angry with his father-in-law and the situation, and has been worrying a little bit about his business Banda, because Banda, which is a ultra luxury property design company, relies on having very wealthy, ultra high net worth clients, and they prize secrecy above all. These are the people that when they sell their house, they don't put listings on Rightmove. They do it all behind closed doors, off-market sales. So the last thing you want is this very, very famous family, for all the wrong reasons, to be associated with your brand. So I think a lot of it was about trying to separate himself off and Banda off from the rest of the family. But it's a bit difficult when you've got your wife in the middle, the link between your business.
And what I thought was so interesting about your reporting is that, of course, he used that relationship to help launch the business, didn't he? When it was helpful for him to sort of be royal adjacent and connected to Andrew and Fergie, he used it. And again, you might say, well, that's just a practical reality. But of course, it becomes much, much harder when you're then trying to reverse it. And Charlotte, amidst all of this, of course, it's interesting that we're not talking that much about William and Catherine, but I feel like they have had an absolutely triumphant couple of weeks, because through all of the noise, right, of Harry and Buckingham Palace and then the court case, I mean, can you just imagine, by the way, when the verdict came through, like William would have been spitting tacks, because of course he was always like, this is insane. Why are you going to war with the press? Like, it's not like William is the biggest fan of newspapers, but he has worked out that it is absolutely critical to have a positive and modern relationship. But that also doesn't mean that he gives newspapers every part of his life. But I do feel like we saw such a contrast, Charlotte, in a couple of the imagery, because you've got those beautiful photos being released of Catherine and the children and the Middleton family during the Three Peaks Challenge, at the exact moment where Harry has never felt more isolated. And I'm not saying for a single second that that was like planned, timed for that moment. It's like Catherine had a rollout of how she was going to release the Three Peaks Challenge, because of course she wants maximum fundraising, doesn't she, for the Royal Marsden. But I just feel like it was such contrast. And then of course we saw her this week at the Evelina Children's Hospital. And again, there were such beautiful moments within that. And it was when Harry's car crash return was happening. So do you think the plan for William and Catherine is literally just to push on and just ignore it all?
I think It's keep calm and carry on. And the best thing Catherine can do is just be herself. Because every time she's herself, brave, doing the Three Peaks Challenge, warm, look at this lovely picture of her now. It's just such a contrast to Harry and Meghan. And I always remember that time, I think it's in the Netflix documentary, where Meghan is trying to go down a hill on a trek in California. And it's not a very steep hill. And she has to like lie down and go
I
down
played it. It was cruel, but I had to.
And, you know, by contrast, Catherine's there. She's just recovered from cancer. She's done the Three Peaks Challenge. And she's not trying to look all beautiful and elegant and stylish. She's got her kind of rain mac on and her kind of ski poles. And actually, although I have to say afterwards, when she arrived and she was greeted by the Middletons and she was wearing those red shorts, I thought she looked incredible and very sexy. And you're so right. That thing of having William's in-laws all around him, that lovely, warm Middleton family. Harry doesn't have really any in-laws. Of course, he's got Doria, who I know is a huge rock to them. But as we all know, there aren't any other in-laws. And I don't think it's contrived. I don't think Catherine's thinking, oh, I'll go up this big hill because Meghan can't go down a very shallow ravine. I think that, I just think their strategy is be yourself, keep calm, carry on. It's what we all do in England, especially the royals. And when Catherine is herself, it glows.
This total exclusion from the royal fold has drawn an iron line right through the heart of the monarchy, exposing a massive, functional rift between King Charles and Prince William. Courtiers confirm that the king's paternal instincts still lean toward eventual forgiveness and reconciliation. But Prince William is standing in absolute opposition. William has reportedly adopted a cold, unyielding stance. He refuses to allow the Harry and Meghan sideshow to compromise the institutional stability of the crown. He wants a clean, drama-free handover for his own children, effectively imposing an absolute lifetime ban on the Sussexes ever returning to the active royal fold, regardless of the king's personal feelings. This institutional lockout has officially split the younger generation of the royal family into deeply divided camps. Charlotte Griffiths reveals that Princess Beatrice is playing a flawless strategic game, keeping her optics entirely aligned with Team Royal and distancing herself from family scandals to protect her public standing. Princess Eugenie, however, is singing from a completely different hymn sheet. Fleet Street is buzzing with reports that Eugenie and her husband, Jack Brooksbank, actively helped facilitate Harry and Meghan's recent property acquisition in Portugal. This European base isn't just a vacation home. It is a calculated safety net for a couple who knows their American dream is rapidly turning into a commercial nightmare. This brings us to the ultimate endgame for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Their entire global identity relies on a crown they have spent years attacking, yet the door to that institution has been firmly padlocked by the future king. Caught in a highly volatile marriage defined by argumentative jeopardy, distrusted by the palace, and running completely out of original ideas in Hollywood, they are left stranded on the outer fringes of the global stage, forced to watch the working royals move forward into the future with absolute clarity. The illusion has cracked, the reporting from Fleet Street is devastating, and the reality of the Sussex brand has been completely laid bare. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you agree with Charlotte Griffiths that the marriage has devolved into a volatile, toxic mess, or do you think Prince William is 100% right to completely cut them off from the future of the monarchy? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. I'm jumping in right now to read your replies. Make sure to smash that like button if you found this breakdown insightful, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a breaking royal update. Let's get straight into the truth. Leave your raw thoughts in the comments section below.